Hi, welcome. I'm Teresa Hernandez. I'm Associate Dean for Research in the College of Arts and Sciences, and Dean Jim White is also on this call. And a lot of people here at CU who are really excited to talk to you about graduate school and also about the partnership that we developed in the College of Arts and Sciences between Fort Lewis College and CU Boulder, where, as you can see in the room there with you, you have some recent PhDs, or not exactly recent, but PhDs from CU Boulder, now faculty, visiting faculty at Fort Lewis College. And really, this is an opportunity to showcase them and also to let you know about what graduate school at CU Boulder is like, so that you might consider coming here. And that's sort of the full circle of the partnership, where we have individuals go to Fort Lewis College, and then we hope individuals from Fort Lewis College will come up to see you. So that's what we're doing. We have Yasmin on the call, who makes sure everything happens and is an amazing recruiter, Patrick Moore from the graduate school, and Jason Shelton, who is also in recruiting and arts and sciences. We have faculty, Max Boykoff from environmental studies, and then two graduate students from environmental studies, Emma, and then also, Diana, sorry, I can't see your name, and then Dean White here. What we'll start with is sort of going through graduate school academic journeys, and let the people who are there talk about their journey. And then as we go through the slides, we'll have faculty say a few words, grad students from both places, and then Dean White can add any comments that he would like as well. So Callie, we'll start with you and your academic journey, and I just populated your slide for you.
Great, thanks so much. I just wanted to share a little bit about my journey at CU Boulder in the graduate program. I studied astrochemistry, and my advisor was Dr. Veronica Bierbaum, who unfortunately retired recently. But I mostly want to show this picture because it's a picture of me, Dr. Bierbaum, and then my Fort Lewis College student, Alexa, all at the American Society for Mass Spectrometry conference a few years ago. And it just reminds me how important finding a good mentor is throughout your graduate school experience, throughout your life, really. And I wrote a couple pieces of advice on the board up here. One of them is find the helpers. And I just wanted to start out by announcing that. I think it was central to my graduate school experience that I was able to find such a supportive, kind, intelligent, and capable PhD research mentor. So look around, take your time, set up meetings with faculty. Don't jump into a decision, because you're going to be doing research together for 5 years. You want somebody who you feel comfortable and excited to go into their office and tell them what's going on. Also, imagine something went wrong, and imagine whose office you're willing to go into to stay there. Maybe something broke. Maybe it was your fault. That's okay. It happens in science all the time. You want to look for that helper, that personality type. You can say, I broke it, and they say, no big deal, let's fix it together, right? So I think that's central. Also, I often talk to students like Alexa, actually, who are kind of in doubt of whether graduate school is for them. Alexa is currently in graduate school at Georgia Tech. And I remember when we first talked about it in my office, she just said, like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not 100% sure though. So why would I apply if I'm not 100% sure? And I was like, why would anyone apply to anything if we had to be 100% sure about it? Nobody knows. It's worth getting that application out there and just seeing what happens. So I would say, like, when in doubt, apply. So if you're not sure, go ahead and submit that application and see what happens, right? Like, keep that option open, keep that door open. The last piece of advice that's kind of tied in with my experience is I wasn't sure I wanted to go to graduate school because I was concerned about student debt, and I was concerned about I wanted to enter the workforce to get paid, right? And that happens, a lot of the students that I talk to are also like, I don't want any more debt. I don't think I can afford this. And the truth is we get salaried as a science graduate student in almost all programs. You're going to be paid to learn, which is pretty darn cool. I felt really lucky every day at CU that I got to be there doing experiments, becoming a better chemist, and I was salaried. Like, how cool is that, right? It's obviously not a super huge salary, but you get to learn and get paid. So yeah, my last piece of advice is like, don't be super concerned about gathering debt. Most science graduate programs pay, which is quite nice. But yeah, that's a little bit about my journey. I will sit down and let the next so long go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me get this.
You can
down.
talk.
So,
Yeah, nice and close. All right, hey everyone, like I said earlier, I'm Izzy Latka. I graduated last year, or actually this June, from CU. I did physical chemistry. I put a bunch of information on this slide, and I'm hoping that the slides will be sent out so you can read through that at your leisure. But basically what I did is I shot lasers at things and figured out how they worked. If that sounds interesting to you, I'd be glad to talk to you after this. Some of the things I want to highlight here is if you are an undergraduate student and you're hoping to do a summer research opportunity, one thing I want to point out is at CU, there's a program called SMART, Summer Multicultural Access to Research Training. And that is a research opportunity that you can apply for that is mostly interested in increasing the participation of underrepresented minorities in STEM research. So you go, you do research at CU with some cutting edge research facilities there, and you are mentored by a faculty member there, as well as graduate students that participate in the program. I participated in that program as a graduate student mentor for many summers. It's an awesome program. I also want to point out Colorado Advantage. So typically you'll apply to graduate school in the fall of your senior year. If you get in, they'll bring you in the spring to come and check it out as a prospective graduate student. They want to sell you on the program. Colorado Advantage offers the same thing, but you apply to that and then you get to go and do sort of like an early look in the fall of your senior year. So I put links there for those two programs. And then one last thing I wanted to mention is that like a lot of times people are sort of curious about what kind of community you can have in graduate school. And one of the places that I found community was with a bunch of other graduate students. We started this organization called STEM Roots. And so we were able to mentor undergraduates at CU Boulder and help them get into research. So if you want to talk about any of that stuff, I put the links up there and then I put some other information about me over there as well. So anyway, we'll talk when the time comes throughout this presentation.
yeah, thank you. And Michael, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah. So Michael, as I mentioned, I'm coming from the environmental studies program at CU, but I got into this field and pursued a career through graduate school, and I'm here at Fort Lewis because I've always really liked wildlife and animals and wanted to figure out how I could actually learn more about conservation and really do some of the applied work that I cared about and viewed as being really necessary towards the state of the world that we're in. And once I graduated from my undergraduate degree, quickly realized that pursuing those careers required more than just being really excited about animals and knowing a lot of animal facts, but also required a lot of technical skills and the ability to work with people across a lot of different disciplines and having a pretty wide background in a couple of different sciences. And over a lot of time, I eventually found my way into a very interdisciplinary program like the environmental studies program at CU or like the environmental sustainability program here at Fort Lewis. So for my particular journey, one thing that was really critical was understanding that there are many different ways to slice the world of science, and that it's okay to start looking across different disciplines. And also that sometimes, while it's very cool to think synthetically about science, sometimes that you have to start putting these pieces together yourself, figuring out where am I actually looking for research positions, where am I actually looking for funding, where am I actually looking for graduate school, and found that I ended up drawing from a lot of different pools of knowledge and opportunities throughout my journey. So I'll definitely work with Callie and Dr. Fernandez to get some information out to everyone about different places that I've found research gigs, found calls for graduate funded research opportunities and things like that, because sometimes it's not always just the straight path of coming from the same department that you graduated from for your undergraduate to your graduate programs. For example, I have a BA in biology, a MS in fisheries wildlife conservation biology, and a PhD in environmental science or studies. So as you can see, I've slowly moved across this spectrum of science throughout my career, which I was really happy to do and found to be really fulfilling, but certainly something that takes a little extra doing. It's definitely helpful to come to things like this and talk to people that have been through that experience with.
Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to talk about what to know. What are some things to know? And I want to just, as Callie said, funding is available to cover costs, and there's teaching and research assistantships, travel fellowships, as well as scholarships and fellowships for a wage, almost living wage. And so I was hoping maybe we could ask the grad students who are currently at CU Boulder, Diana and or Emma, if you want to say a few words about your experience, and then Max, if you want to add something as well. I think they're muted.
Sorry, sure, I'll go first. Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself, then my screen went all the different directions. Hi, I am Diana Dorman. Michael, it's so nice to see you.
Oh.
I am a 5th year PhD student, and I actually came into the environmental studies program as a master's student because I did not know if I wanted to stay for a full PhD, and decided to stay because I decided it was the right thing for me, and also because I really found support and help at ENBS. But do you want me to specifically talk about funding costs and how I've navigated that, or just general experiences?
Well, I mean, I think you could do either. Whatever you think would be most useful to students who are in the audience.
I think that environmental studies does a very good job of trying to make sure that their students are covered. And so I have financed grad school mostly through teaching assistantships. And over the last few semesters have also had a few research assistantships. Like for instance, this semester, I'm a graduate research assistant for the ENBS department and do like community and outreach work. And that covers your tuition, depending on how big your research assistantship is, covers my tuition, gives me a monthly stipend, and also my health insurance. So I have taken out student loans for grad school just because of my own discretionary funds. I didn't have to pay for undergrad, so I had a little bit of wiggle room coming into grad school. But I've primarily funded everything through teaching and research assistantships.
That's great. Okay, Emma?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Emma. I'm a first year PhD student here in ENBS, and I don't have all my funding covered as of yet. But for this semester, I have about 3 semesters covered coming in. So I know I'll be good for about 3 semesters. That primarily came in through scholarships and fellowships, or I should say scholarships directly from ENBS. And there's a potential for teaching assistantships further into my PhD career. I did take 6 years off of school for my master's to my PhD, so I do still work outside of school. So I was able to kind of leverage some funding. My advisor has some summer funding, and I was able to utilize some of that for my tuition. So because I will be working over the summer, I have a different, I have money coming in that way as well. And so the stipend isn't as necessary for me. So I was able to get a little creative with the funding that was available to me. And I also am applying to certain fellowships. If people aren't aware, there are these 2 big fellowships that folks who are going into PhD programs typically apply for. It's the NSF GRFP, which is the graduate, I don't even know what it stands for. You get really bogged down with acronyms, but there's also the Ford Foundation, which is primarily focused on folks who have minoritized identities. So those are something to look into as well. Those are these like big funding opportunities that will give you a lot of security going into grad school.
Max, do you want to add anything as a mentor or chair of the department?
Sure, thank you. And it's always great to hear Michael's perspective. Nice to see you, Michael, who is here just until this fall. And then Diana and Emma just being at different points and what brought them in. I mean, maybe real briefly, I could share with you, I do have a PhD in environmental studies from the University of California, Santa Cruz. I took 5 years between undergraduate and grad school, and it wasn't ever really on my radar. And I incurred debt because I just felt like it was such a good opportunity, and have just paid off my student loans. So that's real. And maybe in terms of reflecting that into my mentorship and my work as director of the unit here, is that it is something that I personally, and something that we as a collective really work hard to help our students avoid. And we've been getting opportunities to put forward like graduate research assistantships, like Diana mentioned, more teaching assistantships to get experience in the classroom as well. And if anyone there is interested, to talk more, I'm happy to talk with you all about those funding opportunities, because I really think going into student debt is obviously not something that I want to see people have to do for this area of work. I mean, as a bridge to Dean White too, that this place has history. Dean White had started the program with some other sort of renegade entrepreneurial colleagues back in the day. And so while I had that experience as a graduate student in the early 2000s, Dean White had started this program, and I'm in this role now. Hopefully, Diana's seen some of these changes in her 5 years with us. Michael Drake saw some of these changes, and Emma's going to continue to see changes for the better as we work to make this more accessible for everyone, and make it a welcoming environment for you to pursue your grad passions.
Dean White, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I've just been called a renegade, which I kind of like. I want to speak for a moment to the value of continuing your education. You've already decided that a college education is an important thing for your lives. And I applaud that, because you are right. It is an important thing for your lives. If graduate school is in your, it's something that you aspire to, we would love to talk with you about that. Education is a passion of all of the schools and colleges of Colorado. Fort Lewis, Boulder, CSU, all of us, we are all, we're in this together to provide a pathway for your passions to be fulfilled. So if that's part of what you want to do, very much, be talking with us. We would love to see you here in Boulder. We would love to see you at any school or college that meets your needs. So the number one important thing is that education, because with that, you will change the world. Where it is while we at CU Boulder would love to see you here, that is of secondary importance. So I know that was kind of a left turn for most of you, but I did want you to understand that our passion here is education, your education.
Thank you. So one of the things that sometimes students think is that because CU Boulder is a large school, that you don't get to know people. And so what I'd love to hear some of the graduate students talk about, and or mentors, is this sort of equation that I created. It's not really an equation, but I like it. Is that really when you have graduate students plus mentors, that is your community and your family. And you see them every day. Even when my mentor used to really annoy me, I would see him every day. And it was nice to check in and talk about data, or I don't know, some sporting event on the weekend. And that becomes your community and family. And I'm still friends with people from graduate school. So you create these relationships, friendships, commitments, and learning that becomes lifelong. So I don't know, Diana or Emma, if you'd like to say something about that, Max, or any of the Fort Lewis folks who are alumni from CU, I would love to hear some comments.
I'll go first. I think I'll come at this from maybe a little opposite direction, actually. I was traveling a lot my first few years of school for research, which did not allow me to really foster a community very well. And it was something that I really missed out on, and which I'm, now have been able to retroactively fix. But I would just say, if you do go to grad school, take the time, take the moments to really foster those communities, because they are very, very important. And they're so accessible because you're coming into this very unique experience that you get to bond over the trials and the tribulations, and also the joys of grad school together. So yeah, the community building is very real, and there are so many opportunities for it everywhere.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, so I've been here, this is my 6th week. So, but I can say, like, I am extremely grateful for my lab mate. We bonded immediately, and they have been a huge source of that community for me. I had a similar experience, in my master's. And I mean, sometimes, right, I think, like Diana was mentioning, you have to work at it, especially, if you come from, or you are a minoritized, you have a minoritized identity, sometimes you have to go looking for those groups. But they're there. And one of the reasons that I came to CU was, in talking to some of the current grad students, they were so welcoming and so willing to, be really transparent with me. And just, I mean, there's one grad student, the first time I met her, we gave each other a big ol' hug. And, it's moments like those that are really, really important. And I think that you can definitely find them, and it creates that sense of belonging, because, in grad school too, sometimes that imposter syndrome comes in and it creeps up. And when you have people there supporting you and telling you that you belong, it can be really, really important.
Max,
Quickly.
go please. Yes.
Yeah. So I know one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the community I found in graduate school is because I guess let me step back a little bit. When I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I graduated from school that had several hundred people that all majored in biology, and pretty much all of them wanted to become doctors. I was one of 2 students that concentrated in ecology and evolution. The other student there was a great person, but only ever really wanted to look at dung beetles and was kind of on a different career path. But I started my journey as a scientist feeling very isolated in the things that I cared about scientifically and as passions for conservation. But one wonderful thing about graduate school is it gets you in the same room with people that think similarly as you, that have the same passions as you, that are at different points along that career path, and really aggregates you into the same pathway as people that you want to work with in this moment and in the future. And I actually had a really cool experience this morning. The first thing I did today was answer a phone call to serve as a reference for a past research assistant for a job she was applying for. My research assistant had gone on after working with me to a master's program at North Dakota, and now was a finalist for this job working with the Virginia State Wildlife Agency. And lo and behold, the person that was calling me about the job was an old friend of mine from grad school at NC State, who's now working for the Virginia agency. We're able to catch up both about each other, but also talk about this applicant, and realize that we had all been sort of synergizing in this way that brought us to, convergent spots later in our careers. And, I'm not saying go to graduate school so you'll have hookups for jobs later, though that is part of it, but also because you will meet the people that are doing the things that you care about, and the people that you want to be working with
down the road. And it was really great to be able to see how having this research assistant sent her on this pathway to being at the spot, working with another person I really care about, and watching a person grow as a scientist was really meaningful. And I guess to say it really sneaks up on you. Can't point to a point where I moved from being all alone in my academic passions to feeling like I had a community. But I know it happened because of grad school somewhere in there.
Great, thank you.
So I'd like to talk for a minute. We keep talking about graduate school, but I don't think anyone's really mentioned what that means and like how it's structured, right? So do any of you know what graduate school means besides like you get some extra letters on your name afterwards? Okay, so I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of chemistry because I'm a chemist and that's what I did at CU Boulder. So graduate school, CU Boulder, or chemistry in general, to get a PhD in chemistry, that means average 5.5 years of graduate school. All right, so that's a long time. That's on top of the 4 years that you're going to do if you're a chemist here. And the structure of those 5.5, it took me 6 years, so we're a little bit above average. The structure of that in chemistry and in physics and the related disciplines that I've taught people in is first 2 years, you got classes. Year and a half, 2 years, depending on your specific program. You have classes, and those are basically like the classes that you'll take here, the harder classes. You know, so each one of those classes might be 10-ish hours a week of homework. They're intense. And then you're also maybe living on your own for the first time. You're probably having to teach to get paid, right? You're a teaching assistant. So for me, I came in, I was teaching for the first time, doing a ton of coursework, and then also trying to find a research group to be in, because after those 2 years, you hit the research hard, and that's all you do. There's no more classes. And so the typical structure of scientific graduate school is a couple of years where you do maybe a little bit of research, depending on your group. You do a little bit of research, a lot of classes, and then it's all just scientific research, independent scientific research. And hopefully you have some nice mentors, both like higher senior graduate students in that group that can mentor you, and then also a really good professor to mentor you as well, which Callie or Dr. Cole had spoken about before. And so this is why where all those ideas of funding, like having certain amounts of funding for certain years, like do you teach? So so I did about half and half. A lot of teaching, which I loved and I still love doing, that's why I'm here. And then also research. So sometimes you're funded by research from your group. If your advisor is really well funded, you can be funded the entire time. Otherwise, you have to teach in order to, make rent and all that. And that's usually built into whatever program you're in. But 6 years is a long time. That's a marathon, right? And so creating this community, creating these support networks is super, super critical. And one of the two grad students here had mentioned something about their cohort and how that was like really, really important for them. And that was super important for me. I got into the physical chemistry program. I'm not entirely sure why, because my math skills were not good coming into that. And there is a lot of math in physical chemistry. Now, I had to work extra hard to get up to speed, but I had a really, really supportive cohort of peers that helped me do that. And, so we'd go and we'd have a really hard test in those first couple of years. And then we'd all go and hang out afterwards, hang out at someone's apartment or go to a bar, whatever it was. And just creating that community was really, really critical to my being able to make it through those first couple of years where I really felt a ton of imposter syndrome that I think Emma had brought up. And that's, feeling like I didn't belong. Like, hey, why did you guys let me into this program? I'm not good at math, right? And then other people, just talking to them and then being like, hey, I'm also not that good at math either. It turns out no one's good at math. Not really, but, you create a support network and it's really, really critical to making it through the first year, making it through the first month, second year. At the end of your second year, you have this really, really stressful exam, at least in chemistry, called an orals exam, where you go in front of 3 professors and you have to pitch your research. And you have to get that past them so that they can say, hey, you have a good PhD project and your next 3 or 4 years make sense. And so that can be a really, really stressful and critical time. And in that time, me and my friends, my chemistry cohort would all go to each other's practices and help each other out and build each other up and make sure that everyone's going to do good getting through there. And so getting into a research group that will support you day to day is really, really critical. Having a good cohort making friends and having that community is really, really awesome. So I just wanted to sort of give you a sense of the greater picture here, because it's not really just more of this. It's very, very different, and it can be very isolating at times. So anyway, sorry, that's my spiel on that.
Thank you. So some other things that are really interesting about graduate school, and I think the way Izzy was talking about it speaks to this, is that it's unique to you. You will make a unique contribution because no one else is going to look at a mammal or track a mammal or look at a rock or look at the stars or the environment in the same way as you. And no one's going to ask a question the way you will. And the beauty of graduate school is, like Dr. Cole was saying, you don't have to have it figured all out. You just need to begin. And that is applying to take the GREs, applying to grad school. So if maybe Emma or Diana or Max want to talk about that uniqueness, either from a grad student perspective or from a mentor perspective.
Yeah, I can go. So my background is a little all over the place. So, and one thing to mention too is I initially went to community college, so I didn't go straight into a 4-year university. I went and got my associate's degree initially, then I transferred to a 4-year where I got a degree in wildlife ecology. And then from there, I went and got my master's in public policy. I worked in basically international wildlife trade and conservation for 6 years. I still do. And what I'm studying now is basically indigenous methodology and research for restoration ecology, community-based conservation. So this is very much, I don't think I or anyone would really guess that's where I would land based on my background. And it's beautiful. I've changed my research idea probably 7 times in the last 6 weeks, but I have these general ideas of what I want to study, and I get to dive into these things that are, they're magical. It's really incredible to be able to learn about what people have done in the past and to be able to bring it together. And I think that's something that's really amazing about an interdisciplinary degree. A lot of times we are exposed to specific disciplines like ecology, biology, chemistry, but when you go into an interdisciplinary degree, and if you choose to, or if that's something of interest, right, you get to bring all of these knowledge systems together and really build something unique. You're always researching something unique, but you really get to dive into multiple topics and see how they intersect and how they work with each other. And it's beautiful. And yeah, you're driving it, because I think there was, in one of our classes, one of the professors we're going to take his class next semester was talking about, right, like there's a certain point pretty quickly in your PhD career, I would say specifically, where you become the expert in what you were studying. And so I think that's, talking about, you're only going to take classes for a couple of years, because then it gets very unique and you are that expert. And it's kind of scary, but it's also really exciting. So yeah, it fosters that passion and that excitement. So it's pretty cool.
I'm happy to jump in and just say, from this seat now, I get really excited hearing you talk like that, Emma, hearing students talk like that. And, I'm here because of a commitment to trying to help students with those interests and passions be able to most effectively pursue them. And so I think with Teresa's comment about community grad students and the university definitely resonates with me. We don't just find these communities, we're purposeful in making them and fostering them and supporting each other. And so here, I think Dean White's very generous in saying, of course, pursuing your education generally is great. I will make a pitch saying that here, and see Yasmin and Jason and Pat and others on the call are working as a team to build this community along with the rest of us. You to hear you talk like that about where you can pursue these things.
Anyone else want to add something?
And Teresa, we do have Dean Adler here.
Oh, please. Oh, yes. Dean Adler. So Dean Adler is the Dean of the Graduate School. And we're talking about the uniqueness right now of what each person's contribution is to their area of study. And if you want to take a few minutes and comment on that, that would be great.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you all being here to listen to us talk a little bit about CU and how special a place it is to come and do your graduate work. As you can see, we have a lot of people here who are involved in graduate education, and CU is really the variety of degrees that we offer is really astounding. We have at this point close to 6,000 graduate students on the campus. Being at an R1 university, a Research 1 university, which is the top research universities in the country, allows us to bring students in, and they can do a variety of degrees, ranging from a master's in fine arts, but I know a lot of you are interested in the STEM fields. And of course, we have some of the best natural science disciplines, engineering as well in the world. So coming here, you're going to learn from some of the best faculty there are to find anywhere. The students you'll be with will be amongst the best you will find at any research university. And of course, this feeds into all kinds of fantastic careers in academia, careers in industry and government. A degree from CU is going to launch you to really a lot of success in whatever pathway you choose from here. So I think I popped in late. I was in the social science and humanities one for a little while, listening to them talk about the research pathway, the educational pathway, and the transition from undergraduate to graduate experience. Same thing here. More research intensive in terms of being in a bench science where you're in a lab, working closely with a faculty member, and that's a really special experience. And that's something that you're going to see. Graduate school is very, very different from undergraduate school when you get to build that relationship with a mentor. So anyway, thanks for letting me chime in a little bit.
Thank you for joining. It's great. So let's see. So the other thing about graduate school that many of us, I know certainly when I was thinking about graduate school, one of the things I really wanted to do was make a difference. And that really guided my science. I didn't choose a basic science, even though I love basic science, but I really wanted to have some way where I could give back to my community for causes that I cared about. And so what's nice is that graduate school can have that component where you can make a difference and you can have an impact that can stretch from just a paper that you write that gets published in a journal all the way to influencing your community. So if anyone would like to comment on that, that would be great.
I'll go. So I mean, I think that my entire career trajectory has been about trying to make a difference in the world and figuring out the most impactful and also but most meaningful way to do that for myself. So my research is focused on energy justice and applying the Paris Agreement through climate finance in the most equitable way possible. in the developing world. So I think that I had always been on this trajectory a little bit, but also kind of stumbled into just being very interested in renewable energy, trying to solve climate change and doing that in an international space. And for instance, I mean, once, as Emma said, you start to become the expert in your area very quickly. And within the first few years of graduate school, you usually start to be requested to be the expert on some very large and impactful policy developments or reviewing papers. So once you start receiving those, it's a little disorienting that people are looking to you already, but it does, it gives you this step up to really start being the authority and also being able to make an impact in what you're hoping to see change for the better in the world.
That's great. So I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about how to plan, and then we'll have some time at the end if there are questions in the chat or if people want to ask questions. And so one of the things that is really, and that's why we're all here, and the next slide has all of our contact information, and we'll make sure you get all of that as well, but really reaching out to faculty at Fort Lewis College, reaching out to any of us here at CU, and then finding out about the GRE in your area of interest. And I don't know if, Patrick, you want to take just a few minutes to talk about the GRE in general, and or any other ways that students can learn about graduate school at CU Boulder.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Moore. I work here at CU Boulder as Assistant Director of Graduate Recruitment. So I work with graduate students from every discipline imaginable and kind of help those students kind of navigate the graduate admissions process, which admittedly can be a little intimidating and confusing. The GRE, for those of you who don't know, is the Graduate Record Examination. It's very similar, I guess, to like it's like a graduate version of an SAT or an ACT, where it's very general knowledge. There are some discipline-specific GRE exams. I know that like the chemistry department at CU Boulder for a long time was asking students to submit the chemistry-specific GRE. So if for a long time, the GRE was required for admission to most graduate programs, I would say probably regardless of discipline. I would say the tides seem to be changing quite a bit on that. A lot of our programs here at CU Boulder have been eliminating the GRE from their requirements, or making it optional, or temporarily waiving it due to the pandemic. So all of that is to say is not all programs require the GRE. Some do, some don't. It's really important to kind of look into that and see if you're going to have to register for that exam, take that exam. Usually you want to plan on taking it a couple months before you plan on applying, just in case, like, if you're not happy with your scores and want to take it over again, or just to get it out of your system. But so that's one thing. And then I think in terms of planning, I know we had a question about deadlines in there, and perhaps we can answer that later. But I think you want to be able to set yourself a timeline, start early, right? A lot of graduate program deadlines for the fall are going to come up in December and January. And so I think now is a really good time to kind of start preparing your materials. You'll probably have to submit letters of recommendation, so asking your professors or employers for those types of materials. Working on a personal statement, if you have a professor at Fort Lewis who you really trust, having them look over your personal statement, give some feedback. I think just planning and getting ahead and getting all your documents together makes the process a lot less stressful. As someone who has talked to people trying to gather all these things in a couple of days, like a week before the deadline, it seems quite unpleasant. So I would say planning is key. always look at your department's website to see what they're asking. My contact information will be shared. I'm a really good first point of contact if you're not sure what department you're interested in. If you don't know what you need to submit, I'm happy to kind of walk anyone through that process. So yeah, that's I think what I'll share now, and if we have more specific questions we want to answer later, happy to chime in.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So did anyone have anything else to talk about with the planning, or do we want to sort of open it up to questions? And then if there are specific questions about planning, we can address those then. Okay. All right, so we will move to the slide. Basically, if you want to talk more, here's all of our email addresses, and shall we just start answering some questions or taking some questions that people have? And Yasmin, you can help with that, or Callie can ask the audience there, however you think is best.
Yeah, sure. I can address the questions in the chat, and then Callie, if you just want to share the questions that come up. So I'm sure this is a question for Patrick. When are most graduate school application deadlines at CU for fall 2022, and where can that information be found?
Yeah, so I'm going to just drop our deadlines page, which is here on our graduate school website, in the chat. Callie, I don't know if you can maybe email that out to folks afterwards, but that has all of our program information. In general, typically, and especially if we're talking about PhD programs or the science programs, the deadlines for those for fall tend to be in December. So pretty far ahead of time, right? So if you're, for example, applying for a program in fall 2022, you might need to submit your application by December 1st, 2021, maybe December 15th, 2021. A lot of our deadlines are in that month of December. Some programs have somewhat later deadlines into January or February, but I find those tend to be more for master's programs, less for kind of research-focused programs. So yeah, I would start planning for December, especially if you're, I think like environmental studies, chemistry, some of these programs we've been talking about, they do have deadlines kind of in those first couple weeks within December. So I would start planning for that. And yeah, just refer to that page I dropped and you can see the exact deadline for each program.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. The next question we have, how much does it cost to apply to various CU graduate programs? And Diana and Emma, if you want to share your experience when you were applying to CU and how you navigated those costs.
Yeah. So I mean, I was pretty selective in the universities that I applied to. But I know for CU, I think it all ranged around like $60 to $70 for the application fee. I believe CU's is $60. Okay. And so, definitely it gets up there really quickly if you're applying to multiple programs. I do know, I think some universities, if you reach out to them and you are, you're worried about the cost or it's cost prohibitive, you can reach out to them, and some programs and some universities I think have ways to waive that fee. So my biggest recommendation is always ask. There's literally no harm in asking, especially if those fees are prohibitive. So yeah, but that's generally, I mean, I think some universities it gets pretty high. It's like 100 and something. So just, I would, in Excel sheet, Excel is your best friend. Put all that information in there so you can see how it adds up, and that may help you decide where to apply as well.
Yeah, I can just chime in here and give some exact application fee costs. It is a $60 application fee for most programs here at CU for domestic students. So I don't know if we have any international prospective students. on that end, but the fee is a little more expensive. It's $80, mostly just because we have to kind of resort to the expertise of a few very knowledgeable international application processors for things like converting GPA, really just understanding the differences between, say, the US system and, I don't know, the Saudi system or the Indian educational system. The only caveat to that rule is that the business master's programs are $70 application fees. And I would just point out, we do have application fee waivers for students who participate in certain scholarship waiver for those students. Any students affiliated with the armed forces, we waive application fees. So there are some specific waivers. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions about that, and I'm happy to answer those.
For some reason, I didn't get that link. Is there any way you could just email that to me? Mine's the C. Cole. Yeah, and that way I can just email it directly to students. Other lingering questions?
How do they balance doing like fellowships and research or assistantships with all of the classes? Like, how do you survive?
That's a great question. I'm going to repeat it. Maybe you all heard it, but the question is kind of like, how do you balance all that, like the fellowships and the teaching? Like, how do you survive it? Maybe some of the current graduate students can address that one.
I guess I spoke last, so I didn't want to start again, but I guess I can speak to it. So it's definitely a challenge. Being out of school for the last 6 years, I'm reading a lot more than I have in the last 6 years. And it's definitely a challenge. So I'm not TAing at the moment, but I am working. So I'm basically working the equivalent of what I would be working through a TA-ship. And I mean, and I'm also taking fewer classes than I think most people would. I'm taking 7 credits because I think at 6 credits, you're considered a full-time graduate student, at least in ENVS. And so my journey might be a little slower, but I think you have to really kind of recognize where you are. So I think it's okay to take it slow. It's okay to not say, all right, I'm going to try and get all my classes done, in the 2 years. Maybe it will take me a little bit longer, especially that first semester when you're trying to figure everything out. Don't overburden yourself so you can really start to figure out, okay, how do I function best? How can I manage my time? Okay, I didn't think this class is going to take me as much time as it does. So let me, bring that into how many classes I'm going to take next semester, or, putting up those boundaries. I think one of the hardest things that I've found is saying no, because there are just so many opportunities and they're so amazing and I want to do all of them. But I recognize that I can't do that, and I'm going to burn out really quickly if I try and do it. So being really cognizant of what your priorities are, sitting with it and being okay saying no. And I think, at least in my experience, faculty and professors have been really receptive of that. They've been in your shoes, they know. So being really clear and saying, hey, I would love to do this, but I can't right now because I know if I take this on, I'm not going to put the amount of effort that I want to in all these other things. And so really taking the time to be like, what do I want out of this? And being really cognizant of what you want and what you can do and what you want to put your energy towards. But it's a challenge. Like, don't get me wrong, it will be a challenge, it will be hard, but you can do it, and you'll survive, I promise.
I'll add a little bit to that, if that's all right.
Please.
I'll second what Emma said, that grad school is certainly hard. Probably, like the top 5 hardest moments of my life, 3 of them at least were from graduate school in various ways, but a lot of that is for a good reason. You're being held to a high standard in a lot of ways in graduate school, but also given a lot of agency from that. You're treated as a peer more than you are as a student and have to live up to the responsibilities that come with that. But when you do so, not only do you learn a lot, but you do cooler things than you ever did as an undergraduate and take a lot more ownership in projects and things that you work on. And just like Emma said, you learn through that experience how to budget your time. I certainly overextended a lot throughout my time in graduate school, as some of my friends up there could attest to. And over time learned how to actually know when I can do things and when I can't, and how to gracefully say no to things in a way that's better for both of us. But I'll say at the end of the day, the thing that got me through any sort of difficult or challenging moment was the fact that you were there because you want to be there. No one's forcing you to do this. You were learning these things because they're what you want to learn. That when I had to pull all-nighters and work on a project, it's because it's something I cared about, or it's because it was a project that I created that was mine and I had all this ownership of. So even though it was tough to finish it and do all the work, it was I was able to find that energy and find that kind of drive because it's something I cared about. It wasn't it wasn't just a 9 to 5 that I was grinding away at. It was a passion project really. And I was, we'd get together, myself and other graduate students, including Diana, and talk for hours and hours about things that we really, really were driven by. I was used to tell them how lucky I was. I could talk about animals every single day of my life, and how I never thought growing up that would be something that I would get to do. So yeah, it's tough, but I think it's very much worth it.
Thank you. Other questions?
No questions like that.
Yeah, let's get real.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the chat?
No, we've answered all the questions. I did want to drop a link in the chat to our Qualtrics survey. So if you don't feel comfortable asking your question now, or if a question pops up later on, I will also email this Qualtrics survey out to Callie. But feel free to fill it out if you want to connect with someone from CU and just get a little bit more information about the specific program.
And please reach out to any of us, all of us, many of us that you have questions, and we will get back to you. And we so appreciate you taking the time today to let us meet you and let us just continue to do this really awesome partnership that we have between CU Boulder and Fort Lewis College. And thank you, Callie, for hosting there. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Yasmin, for making sure that everything runs and being such a great recruiter. And all of you there at Fort Lewis who participated, and all of you here on the Zoom who participated and who are anywhere else in Zooms, thank you so much. And please reach out. We'd be happy to talk. We'll keep this up for a little while longer so that if you think of a question, we'll still be here for a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.